Zach is back. It's the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey on this Tuesday. A rematch of the AAC Championship game from a year ago this Thursday, 8 p.m. And that, of course, is going to be played at Lincoln Financial Field between Navy and Temple. Can't wait for this game on Thursday night. Niumatalolo, the head coach of Navy, is kind enough to join us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Coach, appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for the time, and how are you?
Hey, Zach, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. So, as you know, Temple and Navy, they do share great pride in having Wayne Hardin both be their head coach in the past. We all know that Wayne Hardin did pass away in April at the age of 91 and meant a lot to both programs. They will honor his family coming up at this game on Thursday night. Just over the years, what were your interactions like with Coach Hardin, and reflect on his life a little bit if you could?
Well, obviously, like you said, I mean, he's a man that meant a lot to both institutions. And obviously, he was a great football coach, but more importantly, he was just a great person. You know, just the things that you hear from people and the influence that he had on them, some of the former players. My interaction with him was minimal, but the times that I was able to, talk with him and stuff, he's just a wonderful man.
You know this sport, there's a lot that happens on the football field, but there's that personal relationship that a coach has with the player that is treasured and honored and valued off the field for many years, even after you are their coach. You look at a guy like a Roger Staubach, a Joe Bolino, Joe Klecko, Steve Conjar, all guys that were very close with Wayne Hardin up until his death. Just how about that relationship that a coach can have with the player, and how it goes more than just the 4 or 5 years that you have with them?
Well, I've always believed this, that, as a football coach or as an athletic coach, you're more than a coach. You're a mentor, you're a teacher, you're a father figure, and, and all those things. And as you know, the great coaches, they do, they'll have things on, wins and losses to back up their wins or losses. But even more importantly than that, than their record, is, like you said, is the relationships. And it just forges on over time. And you hear former players, talk about their coaches and what they meant to them and how they groomed them and, the example that they set for them. And so, it's the sport, yeah, you help a kid play a sport, but it's way deeper than that.
Niumatalolo with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. Temple getting ready to face his Navy team 8 p.m. on Thursday at Lincoln Financial Field. Coach, I know you had 2 tough losses. You just had the bye week, losing after Memphis and UCF. What do you think the deciding factors were in those 2 games, and what did you stress to your kids during the bye week?
Well, it's easy. I mean, we didn't play Navy football. We had 8 turnovers, and, in those 2 games, we had a lot of costly penalties. Right now we're ranked 19th or 21st in penalty yards, and normally we're 1 and 2 in the country. We've been the least penalized team in the last decade, and so we're committing penalties and turnovers at a rate that we've never done before. And it's not to take anything away from Memphis or UCF, but we've always gone by the mantra as we can't beat ourselves. We're not big enough or fast enough against the guys that we play. When we lose, people have got to beat us. Just like last year when we played Temple, they just whipped us. They're better than us, that day. And for us, we just got to do a better job of, playing smart and playing Navy football.
How much are your kids talking about that game up against Temple last year, this coming week, and even in the bye week as you guys get ready to play them?
Well, we've graduated so many guys. It's a new team. It's towards the middle part of the year. And we've struggled the last 2 games, So it's like we got our own things to worry about. We can't worry about last year's game. We started off the season strong, but, we've had 2 straight losses. And so we're just trying to rectify, some of our issues that we have as a football team, the 2017 team.
You guys have a different team, like you're saying. Temple has a different team. Matt Rule no longer there. Jeff Collins is the coach. But talking about your team, what's different with your team? Describe your team to me a little bit as they get set for Thursday.
Well, I just, last year when Zach played against Temple was his first meaningful action in the game, and so obviously now he's played this whole season. He played after the Temple game in the championship game. He played Army, was his first start. Then he played in the bowl game, and so, having your quarterback with more experience definitely helps. And so, we're a team that we feel fortunate to be 5-2, but we're a team that's still searching for our identity and trying to play better.
You look at this Temple program, like I said, Matt Rule now at Baylor, Jeff Collins is the first-year head coach. How do you view this Temple team? Because they have struggled through the first games of the Jeff Collins era here at Temple University.
Well, it's always a transition, although a lot of things that Jeff's trying to implement, some of the things that Matt used to do. They're tough, hard-nosed, they run the ball, tough on defense. They've had some close losses, and so just a team that's, definitely had a chance to win, the week, playing Army. And so I see a team similar to us, this had some close losses and they've struggled that way. And, both of us are trying to find a way to get a W.
I know your triple options are different, but having to face them after Army, going up against Temple, how much of a challenge does that present, just that they are familiar with the triple option?
Well, to me, it's always been kind of twofold because, sometimes we go into a game and we have no idea how people are going to line up. And so you kind of have somewhat of a basis of you kind of think, okay, here are some of their thoughts to defend us. So you're able to play, game plan for it, although everybody will always still have change-ups. But like you said, the other part for the defense is they've been familiar with us, with our scheme, and they've been able to practice it for a couple weeks. I'm sure they also did it in camp, knowing that they're going to play us back-to-back. And so it definitely allows their kids to be more familiar with it, and it helps us also to be able to see kind of some of their thought process.
You look at the philosophy of continuing success at a program, and you took over for Paul Johnson, who obviously meant a lot to you going back to Hawaii, and then also your time that you guys did spend together at Navy. Jeff Collins, I know they weren't on the same staff, him and Matt Rule at Temple, but they were on other stops. You took over a program that had a lot of success. Temple, Jeff Collins takes over a program that just recently has had a lot of success. Reflect back to me about maybe your first 2, even 3 years at Navy and how your philosophy was to continue to build the success and continue that momentum that Navy did pick up.
Well, I think, you always learn and see what you're doing well and try to continue it. But you also got to be who you are. Kids, I know Jeff can't be Matt and I couldn't be Coach Johnson. You got to be who you are. Like you said, you try to pick up things that will help you, but then you got to lead the way who you are and your personality and your thought process. And so, you build off the things that you're doing well while you add some of your own identity.
Well, Coach, you know this conference very well, even though it's still on the younger side. So you look at conference, but there's been a lot of changes in this conference. As someone that has been the coach, that has been here from the start up until now in the year of 2017, how do you evaluate the state of this conference with so much change at the coaching position?
I think it's a really good conference. And like you said, obviously there have been a lot of good coaches. Matt leaving last year and Tom Herman going to Houston. Willie Taggart going to Oregon, Justin Fuente the year before going to Virginia Tech. This year, a lot of guys are being talked about leaving, whether it's, high-profile coaches. So it shows you that there's a lot of young, up-and-coming coaches, but there's also a lot of good programs, and it's a tough league. It's a really, really tough league.
What stands out to you about some of the newer coaches in this conference? I know we talked about Jeff, but how about some of the other coaches?
Well, we faced, it's the second time we faced Mike Norvell at Memphis, and I'm really impressed with him. Smart, really good football coach. Scott Frost, we got a dose of them, a taste of what they're like a couple weeks ago, and he's done a phenomenal job. You also got Charlie Strong, who's at, USF. He's going to do a good job. Luke Fickle is going to do a great job. I'm just remembering off the top of my head, but those are the guys that, some young coaches that are going to do some great things. Obviously, Charlie's been in the profession for a while, but there's a lot of good football coaches besides the other guys that are in the league, whether it's Philip Montgomery, Willie Fritz. There's a lot of good coaches. Randy Edsel came back into the league at UConn, Chad Morris, Major Applewhite. There's a ton of good football coaches and Scotty Montgomery in this league, ECU.
When you guys were in the summer and you had that clam bake right before the start of the season that the American does, you being the senior guy here in this conference, what did some of the coaches say to you about the conference? I know you guys can't give away too much information because you eventually will all be opponents, but what did you guys talk about in the summer a little bit with some of the new coaches?
Well, we just always talk, just how the summer's going, just camps and how recruiting and just, some of the stuff that we talk about is just, how many weekends guys did, and we just talk about, how we're going to structure our camp with the new rules that they added this year. Those are kind of things the head coaches talk about, and just see how other guys are doing. Some of the newer coaches, they kind of ask how the league is, but they recognize, even though it's their first year coming into the league, that it's a really good league and a lot of good football players in this league.
Well, Ken, we appreciate it. Best of luck. Appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to update us on your program. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me.